Welcome to Echo of Legends. Marcus Aurelius taught that true strength lies in what we don't say. In this video, we'll uncover 7 situations where Stoics chose silence over speech. Let's dive in and unlock this ancient wisdom. 1. When emotions are high, Stoic wisdom on silence. One of the core teachings of Stoic philosophy is the belief that emotions can cloud our judgment. The Stoics, including Marcus Aurelius, understood that human beings are prone to intense emotional reactions, whether it's anger, sadness, or even excitement. In these heightened emotional states, our capacity for rational thought diminishes, and we are more likely to say or do things we'll later regret. This is why the Stoics recommended silence as a powerful tool for maintaining inner peace and emotional control. When emotions are running high, whether it's in a heated argument or during an overwhelming moment of joy, our minds become clouded. We're often driven by impulse, and our emotions take over, causing us to speak out of frustration or excitement. Stoic philosophers believe that in these moments words spoken out of raw emotion are often unnecessary and counterproductive. In fact, they can make situations worse, fueling conflicts or creating misunderstandings. For instance, when we're angry, our thoughts become clouded with negative emotions. Anger tends to exaggerate the problem at hand, leading us to say things we don't mean. Marcus Aurelius himself emphasized that when anger rises, it's best to stay silent, allowing the storm of emotions to pass before engaging in any conversation. Speaking while angry almost always leads to regret because anger distorts the truth and pushes us to act impulsively. Similarly, when we are deeply saddened, our judgment may become clouded by grief. The Stoics suggested that silence during these times allows us to process our emotions internally, rather than burdening others with unnecessary expressions of sorrow. By taking a step back and holding our tongue, we create space to reflect and find a path forward, rather than speaking words that may not represent our true thoughts once we regain composure. Excitement is another emotion that Stoics recognized as a potential source of imbalance. When we're overly excited, we might rush into actions or words without considering their consequences. In this state, we may speak without the clarity that true wisdom demands. Silence in moments of excitement offers us the opportunity to pause, reflect, and choose our words wisely, ensuring that our enthusiasm doesn't lead to reckless behavior. In essence, the Stoics taught that we are not our emotions. Emotions are temporary states of mind that do not define us. The true test of inner strength is our ability to recognize these emotional states and make a conscious decision not to be driven by them. By practicing silence in moments of heightened emotion, we retain control over our actions and words, rather than allowing our feelings to dictate our behavior. This practice of silence in times of emotional turbulence is not about repressing emotions, but about understanding that emotions are fleeting and often misleading. Silence provides a moment of clarity, a chance to pause, reflect, and avoid reacting impulsively. Through this discipline, we cultivate emotional intelligence and make better decisions, both for ourselves and in our relationships with others. Ultimately, the Stoics understood that silence in emotional moments isn't just about avoiding harm, it's about preserving our dignity, self-control, and wisdom. The ability to hold our tongue when emotions are high is one of the most powerful ways we can demonstrate inner strength and self-mastery. 2. When words won't add value, Stoic silence as a sign of wisdom. In Stoic philosophy, every action, including speech, should serve a purpose. Marcus Aurelius believed that our words should be intentional, meaningful, and helpful. If what we are about to say does not improve the situation, offer clarity, or bring peace, then silence is the wiser choice. To the Stoics, speaking just to fill the silence or to sound smart is not a virtue, it's a distraction from true wisdom. In daily life, we're surrounded by conversations, some meaningful but many pointless. People often speak out of habit, fear of silence, or the desire to be heard, even when their words don't really contribute to the moment. Stoicism teaches that unnecessary words are just noise. And noise takes us further from the clarity and calm that Stoics strive for. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, constantly reminded himself to speak only when his words had value. That value could be in the form of truth, kindness, insight, or resolution. But if those elements were missing, then silence was the better path. He believed in conserving energy, not just physically, but mentally and verbally too. For example, imagine being in a meeting or a conversation where others are arguing or complaining. Most people feel the urge to jump in and say something, even if it doesn't help. A Stoic, however, would pause and ask, will my words solve anything? Will they bring peace or insight? If the answer is no, they would choose silence instead. This doesn't mean avoiding responsibility or refusing to speak up when it's needed. It simply means knowing when your voice will truly make a difference. This principle also applies in personal relationships. Many arguments escalate not because of the issue itself, but because of unnecessary words added during emotional moments. If we all stop to ask ourselves, is what I'm about to say really needed, we'd avoid a lot of conflicts and regrets. The Stoics practiced this self-restraint to maintain harmony and self-respect. Silence in this context is not weakness, it's power. It shows that you are in control of yourself, not driven by the need to always speak or be heard. In fact, staying quiet when your words have no value shows deep strength, maturity, and wisdom. It creates space for others to reflect, listen, and grow. This mindset also helps us avoid gossip, flattery, or criticism, types of speech that often add no value and only harm our character. By choosing silence over such empty talk, we protect our integrity and focus our energy on things that truly matter. Ultimately, Stoicism is about living with intention, and that includes how we speak. Words should serve a purpose, not just fill the air. When they don't add value, silence becomes not only appropriate, but honorable. 3. When they don't know the full story. The Stoic habit of holding back. One of the wisest traits in Stoic philosophy is the ability to pause before speaking, especially when you don't know the full story. Marcus Aurelius and other Stoics firmly believe that making judgments without all the facts leads to misunderstanding, injustice, and unnecessary conflict. So instead of rushing to speak, Stoics listen, observe, and think critically before opening their mouths. In today's fast-paced world, people often feel pressure to have an opinion on everything. Whether it's in conversation, online debates, or reacting to news, there's this urge to jump in and say something, even when we barely understand the full picture. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. It teaches us to be slow to speak and quick to understand. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "If someone is mistaken, instruct them kindly, don't humiliate them. And before anything, make sure you're not mistaken yourself." This reflects the importance of humility in Stoic thought. They understood that our first impression or initial reaction might be wrong, and speaking without full understanding can cause more harm than good. Think about situations where people speak too soon. Maybe they hear a rumor and immediately form an opinion, or someone shares half a story and they jump to judgment. Stoics avoid this trap by asking questions first. They seek clarity before reaction. This habit not only prevents misunderstandings but also shows emotional intelligence and respect for the truth. In relationships, this principle is incredibly valuable. Let's say a friend behaves in a way you don't understand. Instead of accusing or reacting harshly, a Stoic would pause and ask, "Do I know everything that's going on here?" Maybe that person is going through something difficult that they haven't shared yet. Instead of assuming, a Stoic gives space for truth to surface. The same goes for professional or social situations. A Stoic leader, for example, won't criticize a team member until they understand the full context. They gather information, hear all sides, and then respond with fairness and calm. This approach builds trust and avoids making decisions based on half-truths. There's also a deeper lesson here. We are not the center of every story. Sometimes the story isn't about us, and sometimes we don't have all the details, and that's okay. Stoicism teaches us to be comfortable with not knowing everything, and to resist the ego's urge to always have the final word. By waiting for the full picture, Stoics avoid gossip, drama, and overreaction. Their silence isn't fear, it's a sign of strength and patience. Speaking only when their words are informed and thoughtful means their voice carries more weight and earns more respect. In a world full of noise and instant opinions, choosing to stay silent until the truth is clear is a rare and powerful form of wisdom. And that's exactly what Stoicism invites us to practice, every single day. 4. When others are gossiping. Why Stoics stay silent. In the Stoic worldview, character is everything. It's not built by what you say about others, but how you conduct yourself when others aren't watching. That's why when gossip begins, Stoics don't lean in. They step back. They know that engaging in gossip, no matter how tempting, chips away at your personal integrity and distracts from the path of wisdom. Marcus Aurelius and other Stoic thinkers warned against idle talk. They saw it as a form of moral weakness, a habit that wastes time, spreads negativity, and feeds the ego. Instead of building ourselves through useful action, gossip causes us to focus on the flaws or lives of others, often unfairly or without full truth. Gossip might feel harmless, but it carries real weight. It distorts facts, damages reputations, and creates an atmosphere of mistrust. The Stoic approach is simple. If a conversation is not helpful, virtuous, or constructive, it's not worth participating in. Epictetus put it best. If you want to improve, Be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Stoics know that silence is a powerful shield. When people around them begin whispering or criticizing others behind their backs, Stoics choose not to engage. They might even walk away or shift the topic towards something more meaningful. It's not about being rude. It's about protecting their inner peace and moral discipline. There's also another important reason Stoics avoid gossip. It reflects more about the speaker than the subject. When someone spreads gossip, it often comes from insecurity, jealousy, or a desire to feel superior. Stoicism teaches self-awareness, and part of that is recognizing when our words are motivated by the wrong emotions. If we catch ourselves gossiping, it's a signal to pause and reflect, not to continue. In social settings, avoiding gossip sets a different tone. It shows strength, maturity, and leadership. People may even begin to trust you more, knowing that you don't speak negatively behind others' backs. Your words gain value because they're not used carelessly, and when someone gossips about you, which is inevitable at times, Stoics suggest not reacting emotionally. If it's false, there's no need to defend your ego, and if it's true, focus on changing your behavior, not retaliating. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When another blames you or hates you, or people voice similar criticisms, go to their souls, penetrate inside, and see what sort of people they are. You'll realize there's no need to be racked with anxiety that they hold any particular opinion about you." In the end, a Stoic silence during gossip is not emptiness, it's principle. It's a quiet commitment to live a life of virtue, not noise. In a world addicted to talking about others, Stoics choose the harder but nobler path, staying focused on their own character, because at the end of the day, what we say about others says everything about us. 5. During conflict without solution. The Stoic way of silent strength. One of the most powerful traits in Stoic philosophy is the ability to stay calm when everything around you feels chaotic. Especially in conflicts where no real solution is in sight, Stoics don't waste words. They conserve energy. They know that most arguments aren't about truth, they're about ego, and when ego takes the lead, logic disappears. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and a devoted Stoic, wrote, "How much more harmful are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." He knew that arguments, once fueled by pride and emotion, often spiral into something unproductive. Instead of solving problems, people end up trying to win. But Stoics don't fight to win, they seek peace. When a conversation turns into a shouting match, or when both sides stop listening, that's when a Stoic goes quiet. Not because they're weak, but because they're wise. They understand that speaking in the heat of emotion can lead to regret. That silence is not surrender, it's strategy. Imagine two people arguing, both convinced they're right, neither willing to budge. Now picture a third person, calm, composed, listening, but not reacting. That's the Stoic. While others burn with anger, they remain centered, because they know it's better to protect your peace than to prove your point in a war no one wins. This doesn't mean Stoics avoid all conflict. No, when something truly needs to be addressed, they speak clearly and rationally. But when conflict turns into noise, when solutions fade and tempers rise, they disengage. They don't feed the fire. They wait for calm, then return with reason. In relationships, this is especially valuable. Whether with a partner, friend, or family member, not every fight needs your voice. Sometimes, silence is more effective than any argument. It gives space for reflection. It avoids saying things you don't mean. And most importantly, it protects the relationship from lasting damage caused by temporary anger. Even in leadership or public roles, Stoics understand the weight of their words. They don't argue to be loud. They speak to bring clarity. And if clarity isn't possible in the moment, they step back, reassess, and return later when cooler heads prevail. The modern world often praises the loudest voice in the room. But Stoicism teaches that strength lies in restraint. Just because you can argue doesn't mean you should. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you need to express it immediately. By staying silent during unresolvable conflict, Stoics show that they value wisdom over ego, peace over pride. They don't need to be right in every situation. They need to be aligned with their values, and that's more important than winning any fight. In the end, their silence is not a sign of defeat. It's a conscious choice to rise above the noise and protect their inner calm. 6. When asked about others' failures. The Stoic path of humility and focus. A true Stoic does not waste energy speaking about the failures of others. Why? Because Stoicism teaches us that we're responsible for only one life, our own. When someone brings up another person's mistakes or shortcomings, a Stoic doesn't jump in with criticism or judgment. Instead, they remain silent, grounded in the belief that tearing others down does nothing to build themselves up. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This simple idea carries deep meaning. Don't judge, live rightly. Focusing on others' failures often becomes a distraction from the inner work we all must do. While the world points fingers, Stoics point inward. Judging others can be easy. It feeds the ego and gives a false sense of superiority. But Stoics see it as a trap. Why should we talk about someone else's downfall when we have our own flaws to work on? The Stoic mindset encourages reflection and self-correction, not gossip or criticism. Even when asked directly about someone else's failures, a Stoic chooses restraint, not out of fear, but out of respect. They know that everyone struggles, everyone fails. And just as we hope others will be kind in our weak moments, we should extend the same grace to them. It's a form of compassion, rooted in wisdom. This doesn't mean Stoics ignore reality. If someone's mistake affects others or needs to be addressed, they speak honestly, but never with cruelty or joy in pointing it out. Their goal is improvement, not punishment. And if their opinion isn't necessary, they remain silent. In the modern world, where public failures are broadcasted and judged instantly, this Stoic principle is more powerful than ever. Social media thrives on shaming and criticizing others, but Stoicism teaches us to take a different route, to stay quiet, to stay focused, and to stay humble. Think of it this way. Every minute you spend criticizing someone else is a minute you could have used to improve your own life. Stoics don't waste that time. They're too busy becoming better, stronger, wiser, calmer. That's the real path of growth. And most importantly, Stoics don't define people by their worst moments. They understand that failure is human, and often temporary. They don't reduce others to their mistakes, just as they hope not to be reduced to their own. So when asked about someone's failure, the Stoic response is silence. Not because they have nothing to say, but because what they could say wouldn't help. It wouldn't heal, and it wouldn't align with their pursuit of virtue. In the end, Stoics know that our energy is best spent not in judging others, but in improving ourselves. That's where true strength and true peace comes from. 7. When silence brings peace, the Stoic power of stillness. In a world that constantly demands noise, Stoics choose silence. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand that sometimes, silence is the answer. When conflict escalates, when emotions run high, or when words only add fuel to fire, Stoics withdraw. They know peace isn't always found in speaking, but often in not speaking at all. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Nowhere you can go is more peaceful, more free of interruptions than your own soul." That's the kind of peace Stoics seek, and silence is one of their most powerful tools for finding it. We live in a time where being loud is seen as being strong, but Stoics flip that idea. They believe that true strength lies in self-control. Anyone can yell back, argue, or speak without thinking. But it takes discipline to stay calm, to remain still when everything around you is chaotic. That's the Stoic advantage. There are moments in life when silence is not just wise, it's healing. It stops arguments from growing. It allows space for understanding. It gives both sides a chance to breathe. And more importantly, it protects your peace. Because peace is not just the absence of noise, it's the presence of calm within. Stoics are not afraid of silence. They embrace it. They use it to reflect, to observe, to gather strength. While others rush to respond, Stoics listen. While others defend their ego, Stoics defend their serenity, and in doing so, they often end up saying the most, by saying the least. Silence also builds respect. When someone doesn't react immediately, when they pause, consider, and speak only if necessary, it shows maturity. It shows that their emotions don't control them. Their values do. And that's the kind of presence people remember. In relationships, in leadership, even in everyday conversations, silence can be a powerful signal. It says, "I don't need to dominate this moment. I choose peace instead." And that choice often transforms the entire situation. This doesn't mean Stoics never speak. When their voice is needed, when it can bring clarity or kindness, they speak with purpose. But when speaking only adds noise, they retreat into stillness. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Think of silence as a shield. It protects your mind, your energy, your focus. It keeps you from saying things you'll regret. It gives you time to understand your own thoughts before releasing them into the world. In the end, the Stoic knows this peace isn't always something you find. Sometimes, it's something you preserve, by choosing silence. In that quiet space you gain control. You see more clearly, you grow. So when peace is what matters most, the wisest thing a Stoic can do is stay silent. In a world full of noise, the Stoic speaks only when it matters. Sometimes, the greatest strength is silence. If this resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to Echo of Legends, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Stay calm, stay wise.